Hey guys, what's going on? We're going to be taking a look today at some research that I found that is pretty new and is pretty interesting. What we're going to be covering is something regarding the cause of hair loss. Now, I've never seen this before, and I don't know if you've seen this. I'm not saying that this is the actual cause, but it is certainly a fascinating research paper. So we're gonna dive into that. This video is sponsored by Vivid Hair though, so if you do want to take a look at a hair system, make sure you check them out. And let's get into this article right here. So it's called Malocclusion and Hair Loss, an Intimate Relationship. So ultimately, this is coming from the dental industry here. Now this paper asserts that in a class 2 skull, which is essentially this right here where we see an overbite. That's just a simplification where the teeth in the jaw on the top overrides the one on the bottom. That's my non-so-scientific way to say just an overbite here. But what they're saying is that potentially with this situation that there can be a occlusion or a block of blood flow in the STA, which is a specific artery we're going to be talking about, which can stop or impede blood flow to the vertex of the head, therefore causing balding. So this is a really interesting paper, and we're just going to go over it very briefly. So this right here is used as a diagram for what is being said right here. So I'll just briefly go over it. It says that it's clear that the STA, or the superior temporal artery, represents 85% of the vascular supply to the scalp, while the remaining 15% is provided by the occipital artery. In a healthy class 1 skeletal relationship, and keep in mind that a skeletal class 1 is this one right here where there is not an over or underbite. Class 2, once again, is the actual overbite that we're talking about. So that in a class 1 skeletal relationship here, there's adequate clearance of about 3.5 millimeters between the base of the skull and the eminence of the condyle. Or condyle, I don't know how to say that word, to allow for adequate perfusion of the scalp by the STA. However, in the instance of a class 2 skeletal malocclusion, there's possibility of reduced perfusion or occluded blood flow to the STA due to the retrognathic architecture of the skull. Retrognathic just simply means in this situation a person has an overbite, so it's just a scientific word for that. So let's just take a look at this chart right here, shall we? I'm gonna make it a little bit bigger for you guys. So right here we see the superior temporal artery, this big honking guy right here, and we can see that it supplies a lot of the actual blood flow to the scalp up here, which is what this article is asserting, that if there is an occlusion or if there is a blockage by having a type 2 or class 2 skull right here where there's an overbite, that can actually block the blood flow. So this is a really interesting idea, and who knows, maybe it makes sense. So what they did for the methodology here is they basically took men with no prior experience of orthodontic treatment, and what they did is they took men dealing with hair loss and through visual observation, dental models, and skeletal cephalometric radiographs, they analyzed what was going on. And ultimately, here are the results. Of the 100 individuals suffering from hair loss, direct visual and observation of dental model occlusion demonstrated that 96 had class 2 dental malocclusion, or they basically had an overbite. However, a more thorough evaluation of the 100 individuals, those with or without class 2 dental malocclusion, through analysis of their skeletal cephalometric radiographs, revealed that 100 subjects selected for inclusion present with a class 2 skeletal malocclusion. Of the 50 individuals presenting with no hair loss, all subjects present with a class 3 skeletal relationship. So this article is pretty interesting. I'm not saying that it is the testament of why we experience hair loss, but based off of that study, which is still small, we're talking about 150 people with the control group, we see that there is a very, very significant indication that those with a class 2 malocclusion, while this may not exactly be the testament, the go-to thing when it comes to hair loss, it's very, very interesting that this study basically found that there is an extremely significant relationship between a class 2 skeletal malocclusion, or basically an overbite, and having hair loss. as opposed to those that do not have an overbite. That those with a class 3 are those that basically have an underbite, have from that 50-person control group, have 0 hair loss. Study needs to be larger, but that is profoundly interesting because the genetic research leads the front when it comes to hair loss, saying that it's controlled by our genetics, right? Whereas this postulates that while yes, skeletal structure is due to genetics, that could be the specific reason why, or basically that there is a obstruction of this STA, or the superior temporal artery, and that itself can potentially be the reason that we're experiencing hair loss. I mean, that's just fascinating, right? Guys, if you're interested in this more, let me know. Definitely would love to do some more research, but this is super fascinating stuff. Who knows, maybe one day this will change the game when it comes to hair loss, or maybe it's just another study that will just be tossed to the wayside and doesn't really matter. But let me know your thoughts down below, what you think about this. And thanks to Vivid for sponsoring this video. If you are interested in a hair system, make sure you check them out. And yeah, we'll chat soon.